Well, for 2025, changes you need to know about your 401k plan. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you got a question for me, please go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. When you're there, make sure that you send a question in. I'll get you taken care of, get you some answers, and we can go through that route, or we can go through the other route of scheduling a short conference call where I can get a little bit more detail. Whatever I can do to help you, I want to do so. We have that at the website, prudentmoney.com. Well, today we're going to cover quite a bit of things, that changes in the 401k plan. We're going to redefine a few words, give you the other side of the story. And most importantly, we're going to investigate what makes the most sense for your retirement dollars. Is it putting money into a 401k plan? Maybe it's not. So we'll be talking about that. And if you have any questions that come up, you can always go once again to the website, prudentmoney.com. Let's first start with what pop culture finance, and I bring this up because I came across this quite a bit as I was just looking over the changes for the 2025 401k plan. But I think it's important that you understand the difference and give a little context to the word savings versus investments. Pop culture finance is real big on, and you'll read. I read this in many articles. I continue to come across this, the idea that you can save your way to retirement. Just save 15%, and that takes care of everything. And what's wrong with that philosophy, giving you the other side of the story, which is there's a lot of other things that go into the mix besides just savings. And I go to the definition of savings because it's a very short-term definition. Savings are the money left over after spending an obligation from income. You can think of it more as emergency money. It implies taking extra money or even intentional money and moving it from your banking account to your savings account, which all of that is short term. So what I think sometimes people get mixed up in the way pop culture finance uses these words is that all you have to do is accumulate money in a savings account and build that savings account, when actually it's a lot more than that. It's about planning, it's about saving, and then taking that extra money and put it to work with the third step, which is investing, where you take risk with that money that you saved. Then you got to manage that risk. And this is where we kind of stop the process and talk a lot about. I mean, I think most people are pretty good at saving. Now, obviously, statistics will tell you a different story, but I still do think that there's a fair percentage of people who are very, very good at saving money. But you got to take a risk with that money, unless it is an emergency account, which you take no risk with at all. And the nice thing about emergency accounts and savings accounts over the past couple of years, you haven't had to. They've been putting out 4 or 5% return. I know that didn't sound much, but it's better than nothing, which has been the rule of thumb for a long time. And then finally, you have to monitor. And so once again, it goes plan. So you set your goals, you set what you want based on what you know now. Don't get hung up on, oh, this could change. It'll probably change. But that's what the great thing about a plan is. Once you change your mind of how you want things to go or how you feel led to go in the future, then you adapt your plan to go with those changes just to make sure that it's still workable. But plan, save, then take that savings and put it to take some risk on that so you can grow it, make your savings work harder for you, which is invest, manage that risk, and then monitor. And really, that's what we should be talking about because it's so much more. There's so many more steps than just saving money. Although saving money is important, but I often get the question, which part of the 5-step process is the most important? And really, they all are equally and important. You can't have one without the other. They're all very tied together, but it is a process. The nice thing about it is once you implement this process, and it's not very hard to do. Just get some financial advisor who knows what they're doing, and they can help you through once you explain to them what you're trying to accomplish. You'll know at the end of each year whether you're ahead of your goals, whether you're behind, or whether you're right on track. And that is the most important number that you can know is, am I on track? But the bottom line is, with retirement plans, people focus on the 401k plan as being the major part of anybody's retirement plan. And that is where most of the money is. I think the number that I read, 70 million Americans took part. This was as of 2023. 70 million Americans took part in roughly 710,000 company retirement plans. And according to Investment Company Institute, there were about $7.4 trillion in assets invested in those 401k plans as of the end of 2023. And about a survey indicated that about 30% of companies had suspended or reduced their matching contributions, and we'll talk about that in a minute, as a direct response to COVID. In fact, I think that was more somewhat of an excuse to get rid of the match, because we've been seeing those trends dwindle through the years, and that, which we'll talk about here in a minute, is one of the most important aspects of the 401k plan. Really, the reason for doing one. So, is the 401k plan the best way to go when it comes to retirement planning? One of the things I wanted to visit with you today and talk about was the other options. And with these new rules that are coming out, you get a little bit more, or have a bigger opportunity to use some of these options to really kind of accomplish the same thing you were accomplishing with by saving in the 401k plan. The whole point is to save and then implement the rest of the critical parts of the process, and put money and take risk with it, so you can make your money work harder with it. Rules of thumb with the 401k plan, though. The first one is invest up to the match. Always invest up to the match. If your employer is saying that, hey, if you participate in the 401k plan, we'll match up dollar for dollar up to 3%, then at least put 3% in the plan, because you got to look at the concept this way. If you don't, you're saying no to free money. We never say no to free money. Absolutely not. If it's 50 cents on the dollar up to 5%, then make sure you're putting in up to at least 5%. The second one is determine the best combination of accounts for retirement. This is important because I think that as you establish in a plan, part one, that you need to save X amount of dollars each year, and you need to grow X amount of dollars each year on average, that you can get kind of creative with the types of accounts that you want to use. Now, there's all kinds of rules of how much you can invest into, if you invest into a 401k plan or an IRA or a Roth. I don't want to get into all that over the radio because I don't think it's very exciting. So we'll just talk about the idea of combining accounts. So we look at the 401k plan and we decide that we're going to follow the rule and see what it looks like to just to just participate up to the match. So you're getting the full amount of free money that you can get. Now let's say that you've got another 10% or so that you need to invest. Then you start looking at the IRA versus the Roth IRA. And there's some good opportunities with this as far as the amount that you can put back, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And then just to make sure that you do know the difference between an IRA and a Roth, if you put money into an IRA, you get a pre-tax deduction and you get to save on your taxes. Then the money grows over time. You don't pay any taxes on it until you take the money out. Once you take the money out, you pay your taxes. With a Roth, it's very different. A Roth IRA, you don't put you put in after-tax money into the plan and then let it grow. And then it grows just like the IRA does without any taxes. But then when you get down to the end of the road and when you're going to start taking money out, guess what? It comes out all tax-free. So here's the question. Would you like to get some tax benefit along the way, small tax benefit I might add, or would you like to have $1 million at the end and be able to take that out tax-free? A Roth IRA is very, very compelling when it comes right down to it, and I think makes the most sense. But you've got to follow the rules to see how much you're limited to based on what you make, based on how you contribute, and all that type of thing. But getting at least a small amount into it makes a whole lot of sense. Hey, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. We're up against a break. Stick around, and I'll be right back. Hi, my name is Bob Brooks, host of the Prudent Money Radio Show. So let me ask you a question. Do you know your numbers? Now, which numbers are those? They are your retirement numbers. That set of numbers is the single most important planning numbers you can know. Yet the majority of Americans don't even know them. Prudent Money Financial Services, sponsor of the Prudent Money Radio Show, specializes in figuring out those numbers and creating a game plan to make sure you're on the right track. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show weekdays at 3 p.m. on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Hi, I'm Jill Taylor, inviting you to join me each Saturday morning at 11 o'clock for Choose Life Radio. You'll hear people from across America sharing their stories of faith, forgiveness, redemption, and restoration. Choose Life Radio will encourage you to fully appreciate the gift of life. You may also find help for you or a friend in need. So please join me Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock right here on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Weekday afternoons at 3:30 here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Listen, if you would like to send an email and get a question answered, you can always go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com and make sure that you send that in. We'll get you taken care of. It's all there at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. We're talking about 401k plans, and let's just jump down into what is wrong with a 401k plan. The first non-negotiable first thing straight out of the bat is that you want to take advantage of the full amount of the match. If you're running a simple bond type index in stock index portfolio where you put certain percentage in each, and you've got those two indexes in your 401k plan, that can be a good 401k plan for you to utilize. And we've talked about when you're using two funds, you might say, well, that didn't really diversify very much. Yeah, actually, it diversifies just enough because it splits it up into stocks and bonds, which are the only two categories of investments that you really have in a 401k plan. And then if you look at that one bond fund, it's got probably 400 or 500 bonds in it. Same thing for the stock fund. So your money is sufficiently invested. Now that kind of 401k can work out, but if you got a 401k plan that has a bunch of actively managed funds in there, they've got target date funds, and that's just about it. I don't know that that's where I would want to put most of my money because of the options. And think about it. Do you want the option for your savings to grow in a place with an abundance of options, or do you want it to grow where you're really limited? And that's where I think the 401k gets cut short. You could argue about the expenses, but most 401k plans, due to fiduciary rules, have cut those expenses down quite a bit. But there are still some that could use an expense trim, if you will. But we definitely have the bulk of our retirement stashed there in those plans. Now, if you leave a company and you go to another company, you can take that money with you. And I get that question quite a bit: is why wouldn't I consolidate the two plans and have them with me? Because you have the opportunity to take probably the bulk of your retirement now that you've been working on for a long time and move it out of the 401k plan world and move it into the IRA world, a rollover IRA, or a direct transfer to an IRA. That's done without any taxes taken or anything like that, but you just open up the options, of course, depending on who you choose as financial advisor. But you open up many different options that can help you grow money more effectively. So those are just a few things to keep in mind. I think it's answering the question: are my retirement dollars in the best place that they could be? Now, for these changes that have come up in 2025, it started with the Secure Act 2 that they came out with some of these changes. And it's all about the ability to put more money put away in your later years. Says some 4 in 10 American workers are behind in retirement planning and savings. I think it's probably a little bit larger than 4 in 10. They polled roughly 6,700 adults to get that information. Says employers now can defer up to $23,000 into 401k plans for 2024, with an extra $7,500 for workers age 50 and older. But starting in 2025, workers aged 60 to 63 can boost annual 401k catch-up contributions to $10,000 or 150% of the catch-up limit, whichever of the two are greater. The IRS hasn't yet unveiled the catch-up contribution limit for 2025. And what this starts to do is open up the ability for you to use other types of investments such as IRAs and Roth and look at it from the standpoint of, once again, what's the best use of my money? Well, a 401k plan, your best use of your money is to get the free money that is given to you. You can't get that anywhere else. That's given to you for investing into your 401k plan. If the 401k plan obviously has no match, boy, they better have an incredible lineup of investments, or I would really be thinking twice. And so it gives you the ability to be strategic in the way you go about investing. It says another Secure 2.0 change will remove the upfront tax break on catch-up contributions for higher earners by only allowing the deposits in after-tax Roth accounts. The change applies to catch-up deposits, 401k, 403b, 457b plans who earn more than $145,000 from a single company the prior year. See, it gets a little bit into the weeds as far as what's allowable and what's not. Why they have to make it so hard, I don't know. One of the major reasons for trying to fix the retirement planning system or retirement plans in general is that people don't have access to them. And but I would disagree with that. I think everybody's got access to an IRA. I think that if Congress would get creative to solve the problem, take all the politics out, take all the buddy system out, and really get down to work, they would take the IRA and make it into a super IRA to where you can put as much into an IRA as you can put into a 401k plan. I do not know why they don't do it. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And that way you could get help with an advisor, totally different situation than just putting your money into a 401k plan. And if they could figure out, now I'm not going socialist here, so don't just hear me out. If they could figure out to take away, if they're going to start messing with Social Security, and they would allow you to take some of your Social Security deposits, payroll deposits that you've put away and without any choice, and put that into some kind of a match or something like that, that could be really interesting as well. But I think that it's not easy to implement, not hard, to implement some of the things I'm talking about. Making this concept of a super IRA where you can really max it out, no matter how much you make, whether or not you have a 401k available to you, because you could really put back a lot of money into an account that gives you the tons and tons of options that you don't have in the 401k plan. Okay, I think I have sufficiently gone over that. So one of the things I wanted to wrap up today and talk about is we were talking last week about the 10 different retirement decisions that you need to make, and one that I had typed out, because I come up with all this information, and that I put as number 7. It didn't make as much sense to me when I reread it, and I hadn't reread it before I went on the program, so my apologies. But it comes down to, what's the relationship you're going to have to your financial advisor? Who do I hire, and how involved are they going to be in my financial situation? And it depends on the person. But you definitely need somebody that's helping you monitor your 401k plan, because you've got so much money in your 401k plan. I know that with my clients, they are able to send over a 401k statement once a quarter if they want, and I tell them what to do or what to leave it alone or whatever makes the most sense. So you want to make sure that you're with, I think, with an advisor who, and this isn't something that you pay extra for. I think this is something that goes with what you do, because as a financial advisor, I think that you have an obligation to make sure that everything that your clients are doing are the right positioning, the right choice for the support of their future financial goals. A lot of words. Hope that made sense. So that's what I was talking about when I was referring to that. Whether they charge fees or they charge ongoing commissions. Of course, from what we're seeing now in the industry, we're seeing companies go away from commissions and more towards fees. There's a good and bad with that. Just depends on what you're getting for those fees. Remember, with fees, you've got to get something that improves your life or improves your situation, makes it, to make sure that you're doing everything possible to achieve your retirement goals. So there's got to be a value for that fee. I don't have any problem with fees. Obviously, that you're going, well, you're probably biased because you charge fees. I think as long as you can show that you bring value for those fees, that it's just the situations where you charge fees or a planner charges fees and they're not doing anything for that. I also talked about things like rebalancing at the end of the year. If you're not having your money actively managed, that really isn't fee worthy. I think that the accounts should be rebalanced anyway. So you just have to be smart about it and ask questions. Make sure you're comfortable with it. And the last but not least, I was talking about last week, the beginning money manager. Someone who's never done it before, but they're going to call you up and say, listen, I know how we can handle this next downturn. Be very, very careful and make sure that everything they're doing is being supervised, because it's not easy to manage money, and there's a learning curve that goes with that. And we certainly don't want you to be a part of that learning curve. So just a few things to keep in mind. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.